morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Spotlight, which is brought to you by the Georgetown branch number 5520, where we are here to educate, motivate, and activate. We have a couple of interesting topics that we need you to go ahead and stay tuned. If you have any questions or comments, please remember to post them because we want to hear from you. Because you could be featured on today's spotlight, and we know that we can always learn something from each other. We have actually a group of ladies right here that's sitting with me that's going to talk to you about housing, and then we're going to move on, and our first VP and second VP will be talking about upcoming elections. So stick around, stay tuned, and enjoy the show.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to put a hand of protection.
Good morning again. We're going to go ahead and bring on the panel. We have our first VP, Deontay Winchester. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And finally, but certainly, he last for sure. Our president, Mr. Marvin Neal. I'm getting tired this morning.
How you doing, Deontay? I'm just sitting out there chilling and stuff on the patio. Smoking those. Rather have a little fun.
You know what? We do a lot of work in the community, and you need that time to unwind because we put the people first. We realize that. What do you always say? We're stronger together, and that's so true. Thank you for those of you who are joining us today. Please remember to go ahead and share this video so others can know about what's happening. Mr. Neal, we got some things to talk about. We're going to talk about housing. Okay, so for those of you who do not know what's going on, we have a housing clinic going on right now. Matter of fact, from now until the end of December, so long as funds are available, the NAACP around the state, we're going to be doing emergency housing assistance. Please come on out. We have a whole group, volunteers and folks that are working with us to get applications in to help out with rental assistance. Mr. Neal, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, thank you, Ebony. Pretty much it came about because of not only the shortage of housing, but the pandemic itself and the condition that it left our communities in. And, there have to be an outlet for people that's losing their homes and getting evicted and stuff of that nature, being threatened with no electricity, water, and infrastructure stuff of that nature. But the NAACP itself, we focus on the shortfalls in the Black and minority communities and stuff that affects them in healthy living and stuff. So, and one thing we also have to look at is it's the long-term impact. We're doing some clinics and stuff in the different areas of Georgetown and Williamsburg County. We haven't made it to Williamsburg yet, but we're on the way. And but people really are suffering, and it's not people that's just sitting at home. These are working people that still need housing assistance. So it culminates with the shortfall not only of labor, but it culminates with the shortfall of income, as we have talked so much about, with minimum wage and stuff of that nature. You should not have to leave a job to go get another job, after leaving to take care of your families. One job should be sufficient. And that's some of the challenges that we have, and also the shortage of employees and stuff now within our communities, of Georgetown. But I've recognized that young Blacks, they have left Georgetown and went to places like Detroit and other areas that's paying the money, and they're going to work. So it tells a story that we have work to do in Georgetown, and that reflects back on the steel mill. Them attempting to close the steel mill, which is one of the supporting venue for blacks just to go to college during that time. When the steel mill was in full operation, they're moving on up now in the numbers. We fight against that, and we won. So it tells us, as Labor Day comes forth, it tells us the importance of labor and unions and black leadership within labor and union and the impact of that. So.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Neal. And Deontay, in a second here, I want you to talk about the psychological impact that it has on people whenever their income is short, and how it then impacts behavior and what you see in the community. But before we do that, I want to, for some of the ladies that are here today, actually at the location, I want to introduce them because they have been instrumental. And plus, we have our very own housing chair, Miss Sharon Melton Jones, is here. Please say hello, Miss Sharon.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Glad to be on Spotlight.
Yes. Can y'all tell us a little bit about when people come in, some of the different issues, without naming anyone, about things that they've been facing?
Yeah, for sure. We've had some people who, are just. I'm Zoe, by the way. We've had some people who have came in who have only been, a month behind on rent but need that. We've had people who have came in who have been almost 12 months behind on rent and are still, trying to fight not being evicted. And we've also had people who are living on couch to couch who's dealing with domestic abuse, and who has children who she's trying to get into a good stable home. So we've had several different situations come in, and like how we try to say is, it's we'll make sure we help everyone and whatever we can do, but we just try to get those serious problems fixed first, such as like ones who are completely homeless, ones who are dealing with domestic abuse or domestic assault.
Yep. So how has it affected you, Miss Sharon? You've been working on this for quite some time. So I know you've seen a lot of different stories of people that come in here, and I know that it's heart-wrenching sometimes to know that, people don't have a place to live because they're working and just can't quite make ends meet.
Well, the one thing is we're a tourist area, so seasonal jobs are always available, but when that season is gone, so is the money. And that's where we find, especially last year, a lot of people were caught off guard with that, especially after coming out of the pandemic. So that's why we still see people struggling to keep up and catch up, because for the simple fact that the 6 months or however many months that job lasted, that money is now gone, and we're going back into an area where we're not going to have any money. So when you're sharing a place to live with someone else, you're technically homeless because that apartment or that house is not in your name. So what this program does is give you a chance and a choice. So I just pray that everybody will just come on down, see what they can get, while we can get it going, while we have the program, take advantage of it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon. You have worked, and to help people get that assistance. And also I want to introduce Miss Desiree Young, who's just starting with us. And please say hello, Miss Desiree.
Hello, how you doing?
All right. And with that said, if you are wanting to volunteer, we are looking for volunteers to help. We've seen an unbelievable amount of people. We're talking about hundreds of people just in a few weeks. So even if it's only but to greet people, whatever you can do, whatever time that you can share. If you would like to volunteer, please reach out to us. You can contact us on our website or just send us a note there on Facebook. And I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Neal and Deontay, to talk about the psychological effects of when people are stressed out about housing insecurities or instability.
Well, yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Deontay.
Socioeconomic status as a whole is closely linked to mental illness. Poverty is connected to a higher burden of mental illness. with variables such as education, food insecurities, housing, obviously, social class, and financial stress. All of these things are linked very closely to mental illness. And unemployment is also a significant cause of mental illness as well. So anytime you have this economic insecurity, it can cause a great deal of anxiety. And this is often thought to be one of the things that put you at a higher risk for not only mental health, but health issues overall. So we need to do everything that we can to make sure that individuals that are experiencing poverty, and when we say poverty, we're not talking about just individuals that you see, panhandling, or individuals that may be homeless, or individuals that are struggling to eat every day. We're talking about working individuals who are living below the poverty line. We talked about studies recently that showed that a single individual with 0 children would need to make above $17 an hour to maintain themselves in Georgetown. So if you are under that $17 an hour mark, then by all marks of socioeconomic status, you are living in poverty. So this is what we mean when we say the individuals that are below the poverty line. I think that a lot of times we associate individuals who are homeless with poverty, individuals who don't have enough clothes, with poverty, individuals who don't have enough food. But a lot of times individuals that you see every day working 9-to-5 jobs are living in poverty, and we would never know it. These individuals that are working 2 or 3 jobs a day, working 18 to 20 hours a day just to survive, because they do not have what they need to maintain themselves and their families. So let's just do what we can to support this program and make sure individuals in our local community have the resources that they need to maintain healthy living and to be secure within their housing.
Absolutely. Mr. Neal, looked like you had something to say, and we're going to bring on another guest here just a moment.
Yes, what I want first, I'd like to say thank you to the housing team, and thank you to you, Ebony, for taking on this task and stuff. And I know it's not easy, and especially Sharon, that have been doing this for the last 2 years. She never stopped doing it, is the thing, and but you can't overlook the appreciation of the people that's actually doing the work. And she have done an awesome job in handling this housing segment of the NAACP, and looking back at the last convention in Atlantic City just recently in July, that was a huge conversation, was housing and zoning and infrastructure and highways and fair housing, and the impact that it has on the African American communities. How the community have just pretty much been abandoned, especially on infrastructure. You look at Mississippi right now, and just look at Andrews right here in Georgetown. They are constantly ignored, and the fact that their infrastructure is falling apart right in the west end of Georgetown there, in Whites Creek and those, the same thing, flooding and stuff of that nature. That's just pretty much been abandoned right there in the same area where we live, just across the track. So we can't lose sight of what's really going around us, and make sure that during the election period that these issues are brought up, and people hold these elected officials accountable for what they're supposed to do for your community, and tell people what you want. Don't sit back and wait on them to tell you. You tell them what you want, and you hold them accountable to get it for you.
Absolutely. And good points. And matter of fact, we're going to be talking about upcoming elections and how that impacts everything. We have our second VP and my co-host here that's going to be coming on. She's going to talk with us. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? I'm listening to what everyone has said, and I recently started reading a book called Black Fatigue, and it talks about the generational trauma. It talks about how racism erodes the mind, body, and spirit. And it's Black Fatigue, and it offers solutions. But as I was listening to Mr. Winchester and Mr. Neal and everything that's going on, it's not only affordable housing, but it's the context of history. It's who you elect, and it's systemic, and it wears you down. But it wears you down not only as Black people, it wears you down as low income folks. Um, and we know low income crosses all races and genders. So what we do to help address our generational trauma as Black folks also benefits other folks. And I want people to understand that, because the NAACP started out as a diverse organization. And these problems are systemic and deeply embedded in our community. And unless we get out and vote and are knowledgeable about who we vote for, and we demand that these folks who run for office have a vision to get us away from the trauma that has been created in this country. And that trauma is generational. Affordable housing, lack of affordable housing in Georgetown did not happen in 2022. This has been an ongoing issue. I think what COVID and recent events in our country, whether it's Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and others, where there's been social justice issues brought to the light, have simply revealed, like an onion, the many layers that led to this. And it takes us as citizens of these United States to vote, but not only vote, get informed, get knowledge, and make an informed vote. But even more importantly, get engaged, get on committees and commissions on the city and county level and the state level. There are citizen commissions and committees that you can volunteer for. And also on the federal level, there are organizations, commissions that you can volunteer for. And get engaged, show up to city and county council meetings. This is not just for presidential elections. This starts on the school board, city, county council elections, state and federal, to make changes. I guess we're all optimists that come on the spotlight every Saturday and talk about these issues and keep people informed of current events and current issues in the community. Because I really, truly believe that if we all vote as informed citizens, that we can make a difference and hold our elected officials accountable. People are suffering out here, and it's time for us to end these generational issues and challenges that we face. And we can do it, but it's going to take work. It's going to take real work.
That is so true, Marilyn. And you do it almost better than anybody who I know when it comes down to articulating how all these things are just interconnected, from housing from voting to housing to racism
to low income. What Deontay said, the minimum wage, I believe nationally, especially with recent inflation, should be about $33 an hour. We're not $7.25 an hour job actually places you in poverty. At this point, you can't pay a light bill, you can't pay a mortgage or rent with on $7.25 an hour. Then you end up working 2, 3, 4 jobs. Now you have this fatigue. And if you have children, you're not at your best self in dealing with your kids. So now it's a healthcare issue, which is mental, which is physical, which is physiology. It all is connected. But we can also disconnect it and make it a positive circle rather than a negative circle. Because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And by the great Fannie Lou Hamer, I don't know about y'all, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Hey, you can add me on to the sick and tired list, because it day in and day out, especially when you're one of us, because we are engaged all the time. We're always doing some type of service. So what we're talking about, these are things that we're not feelings. These are things we see. We're out on the ground helping people, doing things in the community, and we see what's going on firsthand. And then on top of that, we Black. So we live that life every single day in a way that other people just do not understand. So again, once again, if you are joining us today on this spotlight, we thank you so much. Please post your comments, questions below. Say hello. Let us know we're here, because you could possibly be featured on today's spotlight.
I know we want to talk about the upcoming election, but before we do, I want to say congratulations to Marvin. You don't have to put me on just once, because I don't know if the NAACP has a new Hawaiian shirt. I am envious of his shirt. It looks like he's in Hawaii. So, Marvin, I want a shirt like that with the NAACP on it too. That's all I got to say about that. You're on mute, Marvin.
Hey, we just do new things, I have to lead by example. So, I make sure I try to get you all a shirt like this and stuff. But I'm in the Poconos. I'm up here in the mountains and stuff. We doing some bowling and fix to go down to the water and stuff, and they do some rafting and stuff like that with my nephews and my brother and stuff here. So we just have been just airing out a little bit. This is the first time I've done this in about 4 or 5 years. We were steady working, and we just decided to do it.
Good for you. You look relaxed.
Oh man, it's I slept so hard it's crazy, Yeah. And and it's important, and I need to say this, that everyone take a break. We need a health break. We need to do health check on each other and stuff. That's important. And I'm just saying that as a people, we need to do health check, because sometimes, and just looking at the people that comes into the housing housing rental assistance and the assistance there. If you have a conversation with them, you find a different person within that person that's coming in for help. A lot of them are dealing with the hindrance of home ownership. The challenges that they're facing and stuff, the access. First buyers home credit and stuff of that nature. Just don't get it. The red line and in property and getting their property straight and stuff of that nature. All those things are just critical impact on the Black neighborhood. And then your neighborhood is significantly undervalued. That's where you lose equity and everything else. To make things possible for you. Equity makes things possible for you. It grows your family and everything. That's why home ownership is so huge. It's just such great, limitation on the Black Americans itself. So.
I'm glad you said that, and that's an ongoing theme, something we've talked about for over the past couple of years. You cannot create real equality unless there's real equity. That's the common playing field. And one of the things that, and I'm surprised the ladies didn't say that, we've seen people come in for rental assistance that seem really disgruntled. They seem like mean people. They seem aggravated. But when you begin to start talking to them, what you're seeing is the reflection of, like Marilyn said, fatigue, but it's a reflection of they're tired, they're frustrated, they're drowning in a sense. They don't know what to do. And it brings out the worst in people when they have money instability, which then leads on to housing instability. So let's segue on into the upcoming election.
Real quick, I just want to touch on one thing. And Mr. Neal, you brought up something very great. Self-care. You out there in the Poconos, you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally. We all should do that. And I know all three of y'all get sick of me calling y'all, telling y'all to take some time to yourselves, because we all work so hard. And I'm guilty of it too. But let me tell you something. I work hard, but I vacation harder.
I know that's right.
We all need to take the time to do what's best for ourselves every now and then. Because if we don't have it within ourselves, we cannot possibly have it to pour into anyone else.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that's true. And I want to also, information is going to be coming out. I'm also the president of 7 Dimensions Outreach, which is a nonprofit organization. We are state partners with Thrive, and we are going to have on September 23rd a self-care workshop. So look forward to some information about that. You can come in and just learn how to do that. All right. Thank you, Deontay. You're the best person to say that.
I also want to mention Ebony. So first, Deontay, thank you. I appreciate the phone calls and the conversations. I really do. We have the 4th annual Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference coming up October 15th. And every year we have had a segment about community advocate self-care to give just an hour of tips or just help for folks to help us along. Because you are correct. We get so caught up in the work, we forget to do self-care. And I just want to help folks. And Deontay actually will be our self-care speaker this year. So I just wanted to mention that was something that I was very deliberate about when I created the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference. Yeah, because if we don't have a healthy environment, we don't have healthy households, we don't have healthy communities, we don't have healthy businesses. So it comes down to our health, and that includes the mental health.
Absolutely.
And Ebony, I would like for Jackie to come home, but this weekend itself, let's not forget about Labor Day and the impact and the real meaning behind it and stuff, and the importance of the state of Black labor, wealth, wellness, and worth, in America, because that's what one of we got to promote racial wealth and equity and ensure that the well-being, and the value of Black workers throughout the nation is honored. Because that it did not come easy. If I need to just remind you of the fight we just had just to get $13 an hour at the school district and the importance of union because of those reasons. Just think about Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee, where he lost his life fighting for garbage workers. Those things are critical in the livelihood and the lives of people that we serve. Because that's what we are, servers. The NAACP is a service-based organization. And that's what we do. So let's not lose sight of that. And Charles Braves, the first Black African-American of the AFL-CIO in South Carolina, huge, and making huge impact. Let's make sure we give him a shout out consistently, because I don't think people understand how critical that is in the NAACP national and state and local, how we collaborate with the AFL-CIO to make sure that we get our people what they need and stuff. We don't always get what we need, but we'll fight for it. And if you continue to fight, eventually, pressure will break pipes. And that's all I have to say. And Jackie, she just got out of the hospital, so I don't think y'all know that. She texted me early this morning and stuff, and texted me again. So let's remember that Labor Day. Hey, let's talk labor, and let's make sure we remember them and prayers and everything else.
Right. Our prayers with Miss Jackie, and congratulations, Mr. Charles Brave. He's a dynamic person. So leading on up to, because Mr. Brave, hey, little baby cat, he could not do and be what he is without people in support. We need your support. Thank you so much for tuning in and leading and segueing this into the upcoming elections. And we're going to talk about the elections, but the consequences of elections. Because I wish I had it on here, but one of the best memes I ever seen is that bad people get elected because good people did not vote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The way to look at this is in another local election, I think they said out of 70,000 registered voters, only 800 of them showed up, and the wrong person won that seat. So now that person who was elected gets to dictate, almost in a way, to decide the fate of 72,000 other voters, people who did not vote. Go ahead, y'all.
Well, in South Carolina, there are more people who are registered and they don't vote than the total of the Republicans and Democrats. So that lack of voting is determining in South Carolina who gets elected. If people simply got engaged, got informed, and showed up and voted, then we would probably have much better results. South Carolina is a red state. The numbers show it. We're a red state. not because who votes. We're red state because of who doesn't vote.
And you know, Miss Marilyn, I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of people have this messed up notion that their vote doesn't count. And I can see why some people would be confused, because in the 2020 general election, if I remember correctly, over 150 million people voted. 1 in 150 million is not that substantial. Of course, I'm still going to practice my right to vote, but I can see why someone would believe that 1 in 150 million won't make that big of a difference. But let me talk to you about local elections and the importance of it. In the June 2022 elections, just over 3,000 people voted, under 3,500. I don't remember the exact number, but it was definitely under 3,500. So 1 in 3,500 is a big deal. It can swing an election. If you and everyone in your friends and family circle was to vote, that's a big deal. On a local level, you know, because of the lower turnout, you have more voting power. And the thing is that we often don't realize is that local officials determine so much about our daily lives.
Right.
They determine how much of our funding goes to public school systems, the local tax rate, policing, so many more things, you know, on the extreme side. And we don't have this problem, but think about the water issue that's going on in Flint, Michigan right now. Those are your local elected officials. Think about the steel mill and that issue that's going on right here in Georgetown. Those are your local elected officials. Think about everything happening within Georgetown County School District. Guess what? That leadership was appointed by your local elected officials. So when we think about everything that we deal with on a daily basis, it's affected by individuals that we choose to or not to vote for. And if you do not vote, then you're choosing to allow someone else to make that decision for you. I'm just not willing to take that chance.
That's right.
And you know the
Deontay,
impact of that. Go ahead, Meryl.
I was going to say, Deontay, a lot that what you were talking about, people saying my vote doesn't count. I think we need a conversation about propaganda in the United States. And people don't realize that the media, mainstream media, the dying of local newspapers, certain networks that are focused, very partisan focused, the constant bombardment of negative campaign advertising, whether it's direct mail or advertising in papers or in the radio or TV, or even letters to the editors, are very deliberate propaganda materials. And this has been happening all of our lives. And then you combine it with attack on public school education, where we have too many folks who are now reading on a 6th grade level. And it's the 6th grade where you start your critical thinking skills to be developed. These are real issues in our country. And I think it leads to folks saying my vote doesn't count, because it's a combination of propaganda that is subconsciously impacting our decision making. I think that's one of the problems. I wanted to just say this very quickly to get people thinking, but in the future, I think we need to have a show that literally breaks down propaganda to the point where we point it out to people, because it's so insidious in our society that we on average don't see it. And when people send out constant negative messaging, that is deliberate in suppressing the vote. That's a deliberate systemic decision to suppress the vote, but it's so subconscious that we don't see it, and it's in front of us every single day. I just wanted to say that.
I'm glad you did say that. And I know Mr. Neal wants to jump in here. But if you're watching us today, thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to give us a thumbs up, like it, share this video so that others will know what's going on in the community. But as we're talking about upcoming elections, and we will talk about some very specific ones here in just a second, Mr. Neal, I know you're gonna talk about the consequences of election consequences.
Most definitely. And I think Deontay hit on to, and Maryland hit on also propaganda, how it impacts the vote. And extremely message to the Black community. It really, really hurt the votes in the Black community. Because, when you have someone that's already dealing with social ills that constantly impact them, lack of finance and everything else, and you constantly send out negative messages, then they start to feel that their vote don't count. Just think about the last election, where Mr. McInnes, he lost by 10 votes. Denzel Winley, 67 votes. Sheldon Butts in the election when he ran, 11 votes. That is critical. That is critical. So we really need, and now what you're looking at, because they did not vote or voted in a direction that affected them, utilities are going up. Everything is going up, and gentrification is prevalent, and it's happening slowly in the Black community, not just on the west end of Georgetown City, just on the west end of Georgetown, period. And propaganda is critical in the local communities right now, and it's not just and everyone is doing it. The pimps and everybody else out there is hurting the Black community from Facebook, media messaging, false information, false advertisement. That's why we have to push so hard for credible young Blacks to run for office, and not write them off because of what it's doing to what it's doing to their means to gain dollars or whatever they're getting for it. But propaganda is a mess, and that's one of the biggest failure of the Black community. The nickel and dimes that these elected officials are giving them to do wrong and harm to their own community. Drugs have done enough. And it's shameful what we are dealing with right now.
Yep. We have to really be careful because there's so many consequences that we're paying right now because of elections that happened 50 years ago, because of elections that happened 20 years ago, on and on and on and on. And we have to be really informed. And one of the downsides I see to voting for elected officials is that anybody can vote, which is a wonderful thing, but anyone can vote without any type of background in it or any type of training in it. And you have to be really careful because sometimes they get up and they start talking about things that are just not true. That's just like, I forgot there's a senator that sat up and told people that women should not have a right to be in being abortion because a baby while the baby is inside the uterus, that the baby is not connected to the mother. And he actually said that out loud. You talking about a person with a degree sat on TV and said women should not have that right because the baby is not connected to them.
Wow.
It's the propaganda. And we see it so many times, with these officials that just say things that are untrue, not even scientifically backed or anything. And people sit there and they believe it.
Just look at DuBose in the last election. When the question was asked about critical race theory, why is he putting that out there? And he said, well, because it could happen. You see what I'm saying? That is the type thing that Marilyn and Deontay was talking about myself. That's just bad information, propaganda, and it depletes the mindset of those that have intention of voting at times, thinking that these things are possible. And it reached that segment of the population that really want to believe that, critical race theory. That's what you call segregation of the people. So we have to be so careful who we elect. And this guy is running again. And I'll tell anybody, even if his language change, do not vote for DuBose. Bottom line, that's the worst thing you could do, and get him on the school board. Because you will really see a mess. You think we have a mess now? you vote for DuBose in this next election. In the NAACP, we don't support candidate, but we call out the bad ones. And he's a bad one. That's the bottom line. Bad policy, bad principles.
You know, and I better not. I better keep that because, you know, yeah, y'all heard it. So govern yourselves accordingly because we have upcoming elections, y'all. Be ready. Who wants to talk about a specific one?
Go ahead, Ebony, finish. But I do want.
Go ahead.
I want to talk about the mechanics of the upcoming elections, so people are very clear. We have a Georgetown City Council special election that's coming up, and we are having the midterm elections. So we don't want people to get confused about it because on November 8th, you're going to have to vote twice if you live in the city. It's two separate elections. So you have to, I don't know how the election commission is going to set it up yet, whether you get two ballots at the same time and you vote, or you vote one time in the city for the midterm election, then you got to go back through and vote for the city special election. But there is a city council special election coming up. Filing opens this Monday. And it usually is 2 weeks to it close. I don't know the closing date, but it's usually a 2-week filing period. And then that's for the special election. And then November 8th, we are in the midst of the midterm election that's going on. So I just want people to understand the mechanics this year of what's going on. Go ahead.
You know, and you really mentioned something good. It's enough to understand politics at the basic level. But then when you add on top of, okay, you got to vote twice if you live in Georgetown city limits, that brings in another level of confusion. And I can only speak for myself, but I feel like that was very intentional to confuse people because now people don't know exactly what to expect. People, you know, sometimes when they show up to vote, we keep telling people vote, vote, vote. But sometimes they don't know the mechanics of it, like you were talking about, Marilyn. And then on top of that, they may not understand the platform of the people that they're voting for. Don't just vote for people because you know them. I tell my own family, if some of y'all acting crazy, making foolish decisions, have a crazy platform, I'm not voting for you. It's not a popularity contest. Find out about these people before you vote.
And that's the politics of it, Ebony. You are correct. When people are running for office, I don't care who they are, you are correct. Find out who they are before you vote. They should be on social media. They should have a website. Those are easier ways. Are they putting something out in the community, a flyer that says, this is where I stand? And it doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be maybe 3 or 5 particular issues, depending on the district, the city, the county, that they are really concerned about, because that gives you some idea that, hey, I've thought about this. I'm not just running. I've thought about why I'm running, and I have a vision. So that's the political policy side of it. The mechanic side of it, and I encourage everyone to do this when this training comes up. If you can get into this training, and it's open to the public, go to training for poll clerks and poll managers, because it gets into the mechanics of the voting process, the voting machines, the ballots, the oath of office you have to take to be a poll clerk and poll manager. It gets into the mechanics of our election system. And so even if you're not selected to work on election day, it gives you an understanding of the process. And it helps you understand what the election commission is responsible for and accountable for and how they work. Because the election commission is a citizen commission. Citizens serve on the election commission. And if you go through the training, maybe one day you too would be interested in serving on the board. So there's policy and politics. That means find out about the issues and the policies and the candidates. And then there are the mechanics, logistics of actually election, getting elected, the election cycle, which is the election commission. And I encourage people, and I've done it myself more than once, and I've actually worked the polls. It's been a few years, so I need to go back through training myself. But to go through that training, it gives you such an understanding of the actual election system, how the process works. And I encourage everybody to go through that training and just, pay attention to what's going on so you can find out the next dates for training.
So where would a person go, Marilyn? Can you tell us that?
The Georgetown County Election Commission, 3339 North Hazard Street. Am I correct on the number, or is that the phone number?
I think so.
3339
clinic.
3339 is the phone. 3339 I think is the phone number.
Okay.
But call them and ask them when is the next training. And if you look at our webpage, we'll have that training on it. Our next upcoming training for the
546-3339 is the phone number. It's on North Hazard Street, and I can't remember the building number. But it's the old health clinic too. If you've lived in Georgetown long enough, you know it's the old health clinic.
303 North Hazard.
Thank you. A lot of threes in there. 303. Thank you, Deontay.
One thing I love about us in our organization and the people that participate and work with us, we're always in learning mode. Because one thing I have learned from an early age that my parents have taught me, we will always be a student until the day we die. Nobody knows it all, and it's always something to learn because things are always ever changing. So make sure that you keep that mindset where, hey, even if you don't plan on doing it, go ahead and just learn about it. Please do that. So,
and another great thing, Ebony, what really inspired me this year is your participation and those that went to the convention this year, and how you all handled those resolutions. It tells me that we have a great future, and and it's important to understand what you're doing and what you're voting for, and it was clear to me that you all had a clear picture of what you all were doing and who you were voting for, and the resolutions that had meaning and that did not have meaning, and everything that y'all presented went forward. So it tells me that you have done your homework, the Clyburn fellow training and stuff, just huge, and that's how you train people to run for office. You can't train it with the day-to-day pimp politics and stuff and do this and go this way and go. No, you got to understand how to navigate the system that you're supposed to be manipulating for the betterment of your people. That's what it's all about. You got to know how to read policies, how to write policy, how to write resolutions. All those things are important. Just to get out there and run for a position because I feel good about it. God, it just don't make sense. By the time you get through your first cycle, Politics 101, your first 4 years, so many people have been failed in the process because of a lack of knowledge on what's going on. So it's important to get trained before you get out there and run for these positions, because it's more than what you think, and time is necessary in these positions.
Absolutely. Just be careful. Do not be fooled. Just because they have a white hat with a red brim and everything, don't be fooled by folks, just because they dress nice or, they drive a nice car and stuff. Just be careful with that, because you need to get that proper training. It's not, some people say, well, people just need to get an education. Yes, it's about education, but it's about the right type of education. Thank you, Mr. Neal. And Deontay, love your white hat. I'll vote for you, though. Oh, goodness. So anything else that we want to mention about the upcoming elections, or any announcements that we may have? One of the ones I want to say, well, go ahead. Does anybody else have anything to say about upcoming elections before we give a shout out to someone?
Just vote. That's it. Vote.
Simple as that.
Oh, I got a new slogan. Gilda Cobb Hunter spoke at the State House this week because they just passed a anti-abortion bill with no exceptions at all in the South Carolina State House, and it will be triggered because of what the Supreme Court did. But Gilda Cobb Hunter, new slogan: roll your vote. That's the new slogan. So we need to vote in November, folks. We need to vote.
Absolutely. So Shout out to Serena Williams.
The GOAT.
Huge.
Yep. You
Let's put
know,
this in
Huge.
perspective real quick, y'all. A lot of people talk about LeBron James and his longevity in the sport of basketball, right? Because he's LeBron James and I, oddly enough, have the exact same birthday, December 30th, 84. He's 37 right now, and no one has been on top of the game as long as he has. Well, why do I bring that up? Because people talk about his longevity as a professional athlete, right? But Serena Williams' dominance started when LeBron James wasn't even in high school. Did y'all hear me? She started
wow.
killing folk when LeBron James wasn't in high school.
Wow.
But we talk so much about get about Serena.
Yeah.
Serena is the GOAT. Give her flowers.
Years
Yeah.
ago.
And may I point out, Deontay, what you were saying is LeBron James plays a team sport. Serena Williams is out there on that court every time by herself. So if she doesn't bring the A game, that's it. The only time it's a team sport, it's in doubles. And her sister and her have been just as impactful as a doubles team has that single. So she's been that powerful on as just one person. She is the GOAT. She really is.
Wow. Yep. And she's definitely a model that
A
folks
true model. And she never gave up herself for anyone. She stayed herself and in tune with who she was the whole time she was there. Even the way she dressed. No matter what people say, she had a voice. She had a voice for blacks in the sports. And she spoke high in reference to what was going with blacks in the sports. And so did LeBron James. So, you know, we really got to give a shout out. And we need more people that has that platform to continue to do that. And not sit back and try to suppress the voice of blacks within the contents of what's going on within these communities, especially with racial injustice and stuff that's going on, discriminatory practices. So we have to continue to fight and push forward and stuff for our people.
absolutely. Any announcements before we close out?
You have the Greek Fest today, don't you?
Oh yeah, the Greek Festival is going on today from 12 to 6 p.m. in Georgetown, I believe at the stadium.
Yeah, at the Johnson Stadium.
At the Johnson Stadium. Show up and show your support to the community. Those organizations do a wonderful job in the community. They are about service as well. See what they got going on. I don't know exactly what they have, but I'm gonna go by there and see what they got.
Yeah.
So also remember that you can donate to the organization. That's their information below. We appreciate you and your support. Again, go ahead and if you're watching this, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're enjoying or at least got something out of today's program.
You know, there's a lot going on, Ebony. So if you just go to the NAACP page and the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce page, we try to keep up with all of the different conferences that are coming up. There's the Slave Dwelling Project next week, and in Charleston, there's the South Carolina African American Tourism Conference, October 7th and 8th. The Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference, October 15th. The Fish and Grits Music Festival, is happening October 1st in Hilton Head. There's another Gullah Festival coming up. I can't remember the date. I apologize. But it should be on both of our Facebook pages. We do try to keep up with happenings in the community because they're all, not only are they about entertainment, but it's about education and information. And that informs everything that we do, including voting and being engaged in the community.
Absolutely. And finally, certainly last but not least, we mentioned it earlier. I'm going to go ahead and mention again. We are doing rental assistance from Wednesday to Saturday. Matter of fact, the phone is ringing right now for rental assistance from Wednesday to Saturday from 10 to 2:30. we're here in Georgetown right now, but we're also going to be opening up to other areas such as Andrews, over there in the Bloomingville area, and other areas that we're going to be serving people. So go ahead and send them on out. You all come out, tell other people about what's going on. Thank you so very much. Any other announcements?
Hey.
Support the Greek Fest. Hey, let me make Mr. Neal laugh real quick. A few years back, the first time Mr. Neal and I ever met was at
Yeah.
the Greek Fest. I'm
Really?
walking around talking to people, and I ran into Mr. Neal. He said, "How you doing?" I introduced myself. He said, "I'm Marvin Neal." I said, "Marvin Neal for the NAACP?" He said, "Yeah, that's me." I said, "I've been looking for you. We got some work to do."
Wow.
The rest
That's
is
that's
history.
we met at the Greek Fest. He's right. And his wife came up after, said, please get him signed up. And he signed up right there on the spot. And he was on fire ever since. That is so true. It was at the Greek Fest where we found Deontay. Said, you might want to go back out there and find some more Deontays out there, and Ebony's and Maryland's and Jackie's and those. Because it's a lot of potential members out there. We fight together a lot. So hey, the quality is there, but quality is job one.
Absolutely. And if you want to be a member, you can go to our website and request a membership, gscnaacp.org, and put your information in. We will definitely help you through that process. Once again, we appreciate you for joining today's Spotlight, which is brought to you by the Georgetown branch number 5520, where we are here to educate, motivate, and activate. I think that's actually Maryland's tone there. But we look forward to seeing you next week, Saturday, same time, same place, Saturday at 11 a.m. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Take care. Goodbye.